Arizona, Colorado, Indiana, Michigan, New Jersey, Tennessee, and Virginia. Listen up. WynnBet is now live in all these states, and the excitement of Wynn Las Vegas has finally landed in online sports betting and casino play. From boosted parlays to live in-game offs on every major sport, WynnBet gives you the tools to win. Sign up today for your risk-free $1,000 sports bet. Download the WynnBet app now or visit wynnbet.com to start winning.
You are listening to Dove Valley Deep Divers with Erick Trickel
and Lance Sanderson.
Ball comes out of the hands of Newton. It's on the ground, picked up by T.J. Ward at the 4-yard line. Vaughn Miller did it again.
On Overtime Media.
Mile high hello, everybody in Broncos country. Welcome into another episode of the Dove Valley Deep Divers podcast. I'm your host, Lance Sanderson, and joining me, as per usual, is my good friend and colleague. He is Mile High Huddle senior NFL draft analyst, the one and only Erick Trickel. Today, guys, we're going to break down why 40 times for the offensive linemen are the most critical measurement that you can get, and also why bench press, showing how strong these guys are, is the best way to judge their no, I'm just playing. Erick, the combine obviously going on. I had to trigger you. I've been holding on to that joke for a while just because I know how much it angers you that I'm so intrigued by the 40 times for these offensive linemen, and also with the bench press with like Jordan Davis and stuff like that. But dude, how you doing? You obviously following the combine. We were watching a little bit ago. So how you doing, man?
Doing good. I'm excited. The combine's underway. I've been watching it. Been sitting in this chair for most of the day, watching my computer screen. My eyes are killing me. But I'm excited. Like, it's fun watching the drills, seeing them, see how smooth these guys are moving. Granted, you have to take the setting into consideration, but it's a good judgment of certain aspects of them. And then with all the athletic testing, there's plenty of data out there that suggests like what can be good for what position and how so. And I mean, 4.9 for offensive linemen, if you break that number, odds are you're going to have a lengthy career in the NFL, being athletic and everything. And one of my favorite guys, my number 3 offensive tackle, Trevor Penning, broke that number with the 4.89. And then, I mean, there were some good times from offensive linemen overall today.
Yeah.
The wide receivers, I mean, they were looking quick. Quarterbacks, like, it's good, and I'm excited to keep going. I'm looking forward. My favorite day, though, is tomorrow. That's my favorite day.
Is that because you got the interior defensive linemen that are going to be going? You got some linebackers that are going to be performing as well. I mean, honestly, I was talking with Ryan Edwards of Broncos Country Tonight in KOA earlier this morning. Oh my goodness! Let me finish this and we'll grab that immediately. Holy cow! Anyways, I was talking with Ryan Edwards this morning, and he was talking about the Devante Wyatt press conference that happened, and I was like, if he tests well as he says he's going to, it would not surprise me to see a guy that talented with that freaky athleticism, like jump from, tail end of the first round into the top 20. Like, there's a lot to like about Devante Wyatt. And if he's going to test very well, like he says he's going to, he promises he's going to, man, there's a way that you could see him jump into the top 20. Now I'm going to grab this
before we grab that so I can get this thought out. Devante Wyatt probably had one of the funniest remarks during his press conference.
He did.
Talking about how he plays football because he loves to hit people. But if he was to hit one of the media members, he'd probably go to jail. Like, there's this thing of like measured thinking sometimes. And that may not have been the best thing to say, but it still was great. Like, I absolutely love it.
That's one of those. I got to joke with you for a minute. It may not be the right. I like to hear the content, like the actual quote, not the written words, but the spoken words, because you can definitely you lose the tone and the intention of what was said. Obviously, I mean, we deal with Twitter every single day and social media and stuff like that. But to hear him say something like that, I'm very intrigued to see why he said that and how he said it. Because if it was a joking form, sign me up for this guy. I love Devante Wyatt. Now, got to get this right away because Jeremy, Black Knight, coming in and dropping the hammer down. Super huge super chat from Black Knight. Jeremy, thank you, dude. We appreciate all of your support, man. Speechless right now is the big thing. When I first saw it, I was like, damn. Jeremy says, I call first dibs on the guest drafting thing you guys did last year. Well, yes, we'll get you on for sure, Jeremy, and we'll do that. Erick and I were actually talking earlier today about when we're going to do our next mock draft. I kind of wanted to do it today just because we're not through the combine yet and didn't really have an opportunity to talk about that. But next week is the show before the opening of free agency. We're going to do some free agency breakdowns. So after that, we're looking at doing a mock draft in 2 weeks from today. So I think we'll link up. Jeremy, get at me on Twitter, get in my DMs, and we'll organize that. We'll get you on the show as soon as we can. Okay.
Definitely. And thank you, Jeremy. We appreciate that.
Peter Middleton jumping in here, throwing some stars down as he always does, hanging out in Cambodia in the early morning hours over that way. Has your board changed much, Eric, after this combine performances?
There's definitely been some movement. Not major movement. It's just a matter of just getting confirmation on certain aspects of it. I've been at that point of wanting to put Ike Ekwonu at my number one offensive tackle for a while. The testing stuff just kind of pushed me over that edge of actually doing it. Didn't really change much outside of that. A couple guys just like getting flipped for one reason or another. One guy that kind of moved up as a result of this, not because of what he did at the combine exactly, but I went back and I was watching his tape, and it's a quarterback, and he ended up moving up. I mean, he's still a day 3 guy, but he went from a guy that really wouldn't touch to, okay, maybe I take a round 7 flyer on him, see what you can get. Doubt he gets drafted, though. EJ Perry out of Brown, he's probably one of the guys that helped himself because the testing caught my eye, and it's like, all right, I'll go back and I'll watch him again and just check it out, and ended up liking him a little bit more this time.
I've not seen him, obviously. I'm probably not going to watch a whole bunch of Brown tape, but I'll take your word for that one. David jumping in here. Good evening, Lance, Eric, in Broncos country. Looking forward to free agency and the draft. Hashtag MHH for life. Hashtag Denver Broncos for life. And obviously, Michael jumping in here, showing his support and love for the show. Good evening, Lance and Eric on the Dove Valley Deep Divers. Go Broncos, as always. With that, guys, before we get into any more of these, I want to get some quick matters of business out of the way, and we'll jump into everything that we have kind of gleaned from the combine for the first couple of days of it. We can't really get into defensive guys yet because we haven't seen any of those guys testing. Mostly just the interview process, some things we've heard from that, obviously the Devante Wyatt deal. But anyways, guys, you guys can get at us on Twitter by finding me at Sanderson MHH, and for Eric at Erick Trickel. Also for Scott Kennedy, who's behind the glass running the 1s and 2s, helping us out, moderate the chat stream and everything, at Scout Kennedy. Also, guys, at Mile High Huddle. That's some other account where you guys are going to find breaking news and analysis regarding your Denver Broncos, including any film breakdowns. We've got all of our scouting reports that are coming. Eric and I got those hammered out the other day. I'm going to get started on that shortly after the combine and start publishing those probably 1 a day and maybe 2 a day on the weekends to get through all of those. Also, guys, if you're on Facebook, make sure you guys go to facebook.com/Mile High Huddle Pod. That's the podcast account on Facebook, where you can just get any information regarding the Broncos and on the podcast and stuff like that. And also, guys, go to facebook.com/Mile High Huddle. Click that blue Become a Supporter button where you guys can get premium content like the Trickel Zone. You'll get Kelberman's Corner. You'll get Broncos Book Club with Chad Jensen. And still working on this guest. I've got a great guest that I'm hoping to get with maybe Wednesday of next week that we can sit down and have a discussion. You guys are going to be impressed with this one. I'm hoping that we can still get it done. I haven't talked to him in the last couple of days, but big tease. Anyways, with that, man, I'm still just blown away by Jeremy and that gigantic super chat. Holy cow. All right. So Eric, obviously the tackles are going today. You talked about Ike Ekwonu, the left tackle from North Carolina State, and his athleticism, his testing and stuff like that, maybe jumping him into the number 1 overall tackle. Obviously, another guy that you mentioned earlier, Trevor Penning, as well, as a guy that has secured himself as the offensive tackle 3 for you with his 40 time, getting into like that freak athlete territory and stuff like that. Outside of that, though, what are the biggest guys that you have that have really helped their stock the most so far? It's not a be-all, end-all at the combine, but there is definitely a way for guys to improve their stock even just a little bit. So out of everyone we've seen so far, give me 3 or 4 guys that have kind of stood out to you the most.
Well, I mean, if you look at the quarterback position, well, he didn't do any drills. I think Malik Willis definitely helped himself with the throwing drills that he did. He didn't do the athletic testing. I mean, he was just clean throwing the ball, of course. It's called the Underwear Olympics for a reason. Desmond Ridder tested out really well athletically, helping himself, giving himself a boost there. Probably see him could definitely see him going in the late first now. I think before you're just kind of look at him maybe early second. Now I think it'd be a little bit of a surprise if he doesn't go in the first round. Calvin Austin, a small receiver out of Memphis, he definitely helped himself. He measured a little bit light, 170 pounds, but dude's fast. He did well in the explosion testing. What I saw of his drills looked good. Sky Moore is another receiver. Yeah. Wasn't blazing fast. I think he was just like a 4.41 official 40. But I mean, he was just so reliable at his routes. He had a really good gauntlet. Then Jalen Naylor, I believe his name, out of Michigan State, kind of caught my eye when I watched his gauntlet drill. It was probably one of the cleanest gauntlet drills I've seen in a couple of years. Tight ends, there was a lot of guys that caught my attention in a bad way. I still think this is a pretty good tight end class, relatively speaking. But I mean, some of these guys that are looking at the top of it kind of had some rough moments. Chigo Okonkwo out of Maryland and Jelani Woods are two guys that stood out in a positive way. Yeah. They both tested well athletically. They looked good in the drills. And multiple tackles and interior offensive linemen are standing out today from the drills that we were watching before we went live. Zach Tom, a guy out of Wake Forest, I like quite a bit. Trevor Penning looked good. There was a couple drills where he was a little bit off. Charles Cross, Ike Ekwonu, I mean, those guys were so smooth with their drills. That was expected, though. And then Cole Strange really kind of stood out with his drills as well.
Thank you. I was just about to say, if you don't mention Cole Strange, we're going to have some words, sir. Shout out to Rodney and shout out to Gary for your stars donations. Thank you for that, guys, and we appreciate you guys for joining us. We appreciate everybody for joining us tonight. We've got 110 pairs of eyes on us right now. Make sure you guys hammer that like button while you're sitting here. I mean, it's great content. If you guys like it, love it. Yeah, I mean, whatever. Help us out here just a little bit. Smash that like button for us. Cody W. jumping in here with a $2 super chat. How has Skylar Thompson looked, Eric?
I didn't watch his drills or anything like that. I'm not very high on him. I'll definitely get to it sometime later this week, but I haven't had a chance to really watch him yet from his combine anyways.
Yeah, I haven't got a chance to really sit down and dive through all of the numbers. I do want to go back to our conversation here, though, about guys that have really kind of jumped off of the page to you. A guy that I did not know a whole lot about until he started really tearing up the Senior Bowl and really boosted his stock a lot is Christian Watson, the wide receiver from North Dakota State. 6'3", weighed in a little bit light. I thought he was going to be closer to 215 than 205, which is what he weighed at the combine. But he ran a 4.39, jumped out of the building. It looked pretty smooth in his gauntlet drill from what I saw. Looks pretty decent as a route runner as well. Chigo Okonkwo, the Maryland tight end, that was the guy that really caught my eye. Cole Turner as well, the tight end from Nevada, probably a later round prospect. He moved a lot better than I thought he was going to, especially in the pass catching drills. And his hair really kind of catches your eye. I mean, he just runs so smoothly and everything like that. I really liked his performance at the combine. I don't know how he tested. I haven't seen those numbers yet.
Calvin Turner did not test well athletically. Calvin Turner or
Cole Turner.
Yeah, he didn't test well athletically.
So just just watching him run the routes, catching the football, he looks smooth in that aspect. But Chigo Okonkwo, as far as big as he is at the tight end position and how stiff he kind of does look, his gauntlet drill was, I mean, he ran a straight line, did not bobble a single pass, dropped everything perfectly, did not get weavy on the line. Like, he was right straight line, caught everything, turned and ran really well. So he was a guy that I was really impressed with. And Isaiah Likely tested pretty well. I think it was a 4.54 for him. Ran decently, did a really good job in terms of the blocking sled from what I saw, did a really good job in the gauntlet drill, caught everything fairly smoothly. So that's a guy that seemingly is starting to rise up boards and might actually be the first tight end taken over this guy right here. We've got a super chat coming in from Dennis. How did the tight end from Colorado State look, Eric? Trey McBride.
What drills he did weren't the best, or what athletic testing he did weren't the best, but his drills were really nice and they were clean, smooth, and that was expected for him. A lot of these guys aren't doing certain athletic testing. Isaiah Likely didn't run the 40. He did a couple other drills. I believe he ended up hurting his leg in one of the jumps, if I remember seeing that correctly. But yeah, Trey McBride, he looked solid with the drills. I don't think he did much of the athletic testing. I know he did one or two things, but that was about it.
Let's see if I can find him. I know he didn't run the 40, and I'm not sure if he did anything else. As far as the tight ends are concerned, Grant Calcaterra looked all right, but I haven't really gotten into a bunch of the tight ends yet. There's only a handful of names that I'm familiar with, so it's going to be interesting to go back and take a look at some more of these guys at a later date. Travis Weber jumping in here. My stars comment got missed, but was asking about the offensive tackle from Minnesota, 6'7", 384. I think it was the one big boy, Daniel Fa'alele. How has he done, Eric?
He didn't participate in the on-field drills, so.
Didn't you say that he benched 32 with 34-inch arms?
He benched.
Yeah.
He didn't do great. He did 24 reps. Okay. But I'm pretty sure. I think that's the only thing he did outside of the measurements. He didn't do any of the position drills, and I'm pretty sure he didn't do any of the athletic testing either.
Okay. All right. Well, that's it. No, I'm just playing. Let's see. What do we got going on here? See if I can grab some comments here and kind of get this conversation rolling just a little bit. The Baylor wide receiver, Michael, jumping in here. Tyquan Thornton, 40-yard dash time was officially 4.28. How does that help his stock?
I mean, he's a straight line speed guy. I was talking to JR Drafts, who we've had on the show before. Mm-hmm. I gave a couple comments on that. I mean, if you're taking them, you're taking them for one reason only. Deep threat, take the top off. Basically go run a 9 route. That's about it. Not very shifty, not exactly the most fluid of movers, but he's got speed to just go downfield and potentially catch that deep ball. He's got a decent ability to go catch the ball at the high point. But I mean, it's very limited with what you're going to ask him to do. I like him. I don't think it ever got published, but he made one of my sleepers guys at, wide receiver, and I think that with KJ Hamler being unsure about him, needing some additional speed to help take that top off defense, Thornton can work well for that. And then when KJ Hamler is back, you don't have this mix of the two or this headbutting of the two because KJ Hamler is rather quick, is rather shifty to still work underneath with Thornton working the top.
Yeah. Chase Wellner, day 3 wide receivers with KJ Hamler's skill set. I think that was pretty well just covered there. Anybody else that rings a bell to you, Eric?
With KJ Hamler's skill set?
Yeah. I got one.
I'm
sure
off the top. There are, but off the top of my head, I can't really think of anybody.
The one that I'm thinking of right off the top of my head, but I'm not sure that he's necessarily going to be a day 3 prospect, is Vilas Jones Jr., a guy that has some punt return skill set, good speed, decent route runner, gets off the ball pretty well, smaller guy, not really overly physical, catches the ball fairly decently. He's had some drop issues at Tennessee, but that's a guy that kind of caught some eyes. He was sub 4.4, and there was 9 wide receivers that were actually sub 4.4. Let's break those down really fast. See here, Tyquan Thornton, obviously. Vilas Jones Jr. was at 4.31. That's an official. I didn't see that. Calvin
it
Austin,
shouldn't be that surprising because he was one of the fastest players at the Senior Bowl as well.
Yeah, yep, yeah. I think he was clocked at 22 miles per hour per the tracking chips that they had in their shoulder pads. Danny Gray from Southern Methodist at 4.33. Calvin Austin 4.32. Bo Melton, the wide receiver from Rutgers, 4.34. Christian Watson 4.36. Garrett Wilson and Chris Olave, both Ohio State kids, ran sub 4.4. They were 4.38 for Wilson and 4.39 for Chris Olave. Yeah. And then Alec Pierce actually, I'd originally seen that he had sub 4.4, but it actually got recorrected, and the official was 4.41. So
on that, I saw a comment mention about the unofficial times and the variation to it. They actually have the NFL actually has a new guy that's doing the hand testing this year. It's no longer Charlie Casserly. So that's playing a big part with the discrepancies between the times there as well. And then with Vilas Jones Jr., you slandered his name saying he had drop issues at Tennessee. How dare you? How dare you?
What happened here? What's going on? What? Hello? Not sure what happened there.
But I really like Vilas Jones Jr. and and what he can bring. I mean, it's not just as a receiver; it's as a returner as well.
Yep.
But no, drops were not that big of an issue with him. I mean, he had 9 throughout a 5-year career.
Okay, I thought it was worse than that. So my apologies on that one. Our Paolo jumping in here. I heard on the Fan on Wednesday that they said there was a rumor in Dove Valley that they are leaning on grabbing Max Borghi from Washington State in the draft. What is your input on that rumor, Eric?
It's rumor season.
Yeah.
I mean, there's going to be a lot of rumors. It wouldn't surprise me if they do look at Max Borghi. But I mean, there's just going to be a lot of stuff coming out and from a lot of people. So
it'll be interesting to see what he measures in at and then how he tests, quite honestly. You see some athleticism there with him, a decent pass catcher, but he's not a guy that's going to be like a bell cow back. He's going to be definitely a rotational player at the NFL level. I know a lot of people have said Rex Burkhead is like a comparable comparison for him. So that would make some sense to me. But it's not a guy that you're going to see be taken like highly, probably not before the 4th or 5th round, just because he's not really elite at any one thing, at least on tape. Like I said, he's a great pass catcher out of the backfield, but he's not a great pass protector. He's not great between the tackles, doesn't have the speed to really like take the top off of the defense as far as a home run hitter running the football. So it's going to be interesting to see where he goes. I would be willing to do like a day 3 flyer on him, maybe in the 6th or 7th round, but it's also so early on him.
There's plenty of running backs in here. And as I said, I like him. It's just that there's plenty of other guys. Like I wouldn't get like, it's not a running back class where I'd be like, okay, this is the guy I have to have. There's plenty of good options there. Day 3 for it. Travis Over says beyond Stingley and Gardner, who else is worth drafting out of the DBs? Well, it depends on where you're talking about. If you're talking about at number 9, I'd take Stingley off that list personally. But one guy that I've heard had a lot of conversations about as being the top corner is Trent McDuffie out of Washington. Like he just has it all. He may not be the tallest or the longest guy, but he's feisty, he's quick, he's athletic, he's strong, good technique, good tackling ability. He just got a little bit of everything. And there's a lot of people talking about him being corner 1. I think Dane Brugler just talked about it on his podcast.
Yep.
Daniel Jeremiah, Bucky Brooks, they've talked about it. Like there's a lot of guys.
Kyler Gordon, Trent McDuffie's teammate, has been getting a lot of love as well, from what I understand. Incredible athlete. This kid's super smooth, super fluid, is pretty physical from at the point of attack in the running game. I like him a lot, but I don't know that he's going to get any higher than McDuffie. There's still
for
some
Kyler
issues.
Gordon, get ready for a lot of Richard Sherman comparisons.
Yes, 100%. And I'm right there with you on that one. Peter Middleton. Noah Fant will definitely get his 5th-year option as it's so cheap, but is it worth looking at a tight end still in this draft? Presumably just on day 3, right? I'm not going to lose all hope that the Broncos are going to make a move for a Russell Wilson or an Aaron Rodgers, which it seems like Rodgers is probably going back to Green Bay, at least from the latest buzz that we've gotten from the combine. But if the Broncos don't move Noah Fant in a trade like that, I could see picking up his 5th-year option. It's hard for me because without quality quarterback play, he's so dependent on the quarterback position. And he had great production, but it was all hollow. There was not really anything worth standing out. It's not like he was a Travis Kelce guy or a Darren Waller or George Kittle that would go out and dominate a game, or even a Mark Andrews, who I had issues with coming into this last season. Noah Fant, to me, there's a lot of athleticism there. And if you get better quarterback play, then that's a huge weapon for this offense. But to presume that he's definitely going to get his 5th-year option at this point, that might be a little premature.
No, he'll get his 5th-year option.
Okay.
It's just so cheap for him.
Right.
It's just such a cheap deal. They still have a lot. I mean, even with the issues this year, I mean, he still had really good first 2 years. They hope to bounce him back. They believe that a lot of his issues this year were offense, which is easy to see, but there was also some issues there with him personally losing his mother just before the season.
Yeah.
And some issues with that they hope that they can get that turned around. Big fans of the coaching staff. They'll keep him just because it's so cheap.
And I mean, like I said, with the athleticism, if you got the right system for him, use him more instead of on the quick out routes and the pivot routes and stuff like that Pat Shermer was using, actually utilize that athleticism, get him running down the field, or maybe use him on some spear routes or crossing routes, deep drives, stuff like that. Like there's a lot to like with Noah Fant. I don't know. It all depends on what happens with the quarterback situation, obviously. But Noah Fant is a guy that's with Albert O in the fold still. You're not going into this season without adding at least another tight end. So presumably on day 3, I would be all right with that.
Basically, their only tight ends right now under a contract, if I'm remembering correctly, are Fant and Okwuegbunam. So yeah, I'm pretty sure that they would.
Yeah, and Scott coming in here with some context, $7 million for the 5th-year option for Noah Fant is the number 10 tight end in the NFL, and that would line up about with where Noah Fant would be at right now. But again, better quality quarterback play, better utilization of him within the offense would probably drive him higher towards the top 5 based on the athleticism and the skill set that he does have. Still want to see him get better as a blocker. He did better this last season, but I still want to see him put some more effort out there and still work on that technique that he really needs to refine. Dehane jumping in here with a $5 super chat. Any other returner specialists we should watch besides Vilas Jones Jr. and Marcus Jones, Eric?
Khalil Shakur out of Boise State's one that comes to mind. I like his ability as a returner. There was another guy too. I saw this question a couple minutes ago and I had to pull it up, but now I can't remember who the other guy was.
I know the kid from Utah that's like 29 years old.
No.
Other than that,
age alone.
I haven't checked in on any of the return specialists yet. I'm still young in my scouting days for this year, anyways. Waiting for the combine to get done with doing a lot of scouting reports. I'll start checking some stuff out here in the next couple of days. Eric, come back. We'll come back to that one here in just a minute. Shandy is a new name that I have not seen yet. She had a question earlier. When was the last time that the Broncos have drafted a quarterback that actually worked out for them? Never. And no, they have not. Obviously, they traded for Elway. They traded for Jake Plummer. They acquired Peyton Manning in free agency. The one that I could say the most that worked out for them and probably would have worked out for them if Josh McDaniels wasn't such a you-know-what head, Jay Cutler. Cutler had all the tools and was kind of working his way into growing into something. The interceptions were definitely an issue, the decision-making as well, but Cutler was not bad in Chicago. Let's not say that he was like some slouch. Trading him for Kyle Orton and the change that they got out of that was a bad move by Josh McDaniels, and it's been admittedly so. I think that he actually admitted that was probably a bad decision for him. So that would be the only one that I could think of that
Tim Tebow won a playoff game. If we want to look at what Jay Cutler did with another team, there we go. Tim Tebow at least won Denver. No, Jay Cutler didn't pan out for Denver like that. Maybe he could have, but that's a hypothetical there. And then Tyquan Thornton's official time was a 4.28.
4.28, yeah. Travis Weber jumping in here. Yes, I'm being a homer, but would love to see Devin Lloyd in orange and blue. I'm guessing you're a Utah fan. Devin Lloyd's an interesting one. If I remember correctly, there's some issues going around about his play weight and his size that he's going to have. I think it was him or Nakobe Dean. Oh, okay, so it was Dean. Okay, so never mind. Strike that. Reverse it. I do like Devin Lloyd. I really do. Great athlete. He doesn't move great moving away from the football, but he has the ability to play in coverage. Pass rush ability as well. Plays really well in the running game. Devin Lloyd at 9. Eric?
It's definitely possible. That seems to be one of the names to look out for. Ultimately, there's still a lot of time here. Right now, I don't think Denver's picking at 9, but there's a lot that can change that. With Ejiro Evero wanting to, be willing to blitz and kind of picking that aspect up from Wade Phillips and adapting it to Vic Fangio's scheme, Devin Lloyd would make sense next to Baron Browning. Baron Browning's got the athleticism. He's shown the ability in coverage. Devin Lloyd's good in coverage. Obviously, you don't want either one matched up against the receiver in the slot, but they can handle the responsibilities in the cover scheme that they're running. They both offer ability to get after the quarterback. I don't mind Devin Lloyd. I just question the positional value of a linebacker at 9, especially when looking at previous linebackers that were taken so early. But the potential he brings as a pass rusher kind of helps ease it just a little bit.
I don't disagree with you. To me, if you're taking a linebacker inside the top, even 15, let's just go that far down, they better have elite coverage ability. And Devin Lloyd hasn't necessarily shown that. He's shown that he can play in coverage, but as Erick said, and this is never
you're
a
not
good
getting
matchup.
Elite coverage ability from any linebacker entering it, but he's pretty darn close to it.
Yeah, I mean, it's as close as you can get, but still, I mean, like you want to see a guy that can turn and run a little bit better than Devin Lloyd does, and handles like he can handle over the middle as far as going left to right, but it's the vertical drop, the turning his hips and turning and running with a guy if they're going to have a vertical stem release. That's where, like, if you can find a guy that has the ability to do that, you found a unicorn. But like a Fred Warner, for example, like that guy could actually turn and run with damn near anybody. But you still didn't see Fred Warner because he was so thin, so frail, didn't play well against the run, like at least coming out of BYU. Like that's a reason why you found Fred Warner in the tail end of the the third round, I believe is where he was drafted. Like it was
just before Royce Freeman.
Yep. Yeah. So third round, it's like 68, 60, something, whatever. It doesn't matter. Point still stands. You want to have a true freak, a true unicorn at the linebacker position. It's kind of like at the running back position. You want a freak, want a unicorn to be able to play at that linebacker position that can turn and run, play in coverage, and also has pass rush and running ability. But you're not going to find that in the NFL draft.
You want unicorns at every position, too.
Well, obviously. Come on, man. Stop parsing my words. You know where I was going with that. Come on, man. Travis, born and raised in Utah. Gotcha. Let's see here. Reed jumping in here with a quarterback question. We try to stay away from this, but I'll answer this one. Where would you draft Desmond Ridder? I won't. No, I'm just playing. It's hard. His athletic testing did boost his stock a little bit, but man, there's so many mechanical issues in terms of his accuracy. He's got some footwork issues as well. There's a lot that goes into Desmond Ridder. I like the potential. I like the guy, the human being himself. I've watched enough specials on him, watching College Game Day. I would like him as a second-round pick. I don't know if I'm trading back into the first round, which is probably what's going to end up happening. Someone's going to take this kid in the first round.
The funniest thing with Desmond Ridder is a satire account made a tweet about
this is
him
so good.
drinking milk and being lactose intolerant. And Charles Woodson and Vilas Jones Jr. actually spent like 5 minutes talking about it on live TV. But just hilarious. Where would I draft Desmond Ridder? 40. Would I be willing to trade up into the first round for him? Depends on how the board fell. Depends on the cost to move up to get him. Depends on how high into the first round. And I think if you want him, you're going to have to trade into the back end of the first round to get him at this point.
Yeah, I do actually agree with that one. And if
athletic upside.
Yeah, and if the Detroit Lions are actually a team to watch, because at 32, if they don't trade up to go and get a guy like a Matt Corral or a Malik Willis, if they don't take Malik Willis at 2, first off, but Desmond Ridder has the athletic upside, has the ability to grow and learn. He got better every single year at Cincinnati, so there's something to work with there. Sit him behind Jared Goff for a year, let him kind of acclimate, and then move forward with Ridder as the option. The Lions are kind of an interesting team to take a look at there. Oh, let's see here. What can I find? All right. Kenny Booker jumping in here. Oh, wait. Black Knight jumping in. Speaking of Matt Corral, where do you see him getting drafted? Man, I'm not sure on this one. I like Matt Corral. He's probably going to be my quarterback 1 unless I do another recheck on Malik Willis, who with the combine and everything that has come out of that here lately, that could be the first quarterback taken. I've heard buzz about Atlanta being in on Matt Corral, and honestly, I think he probably doesn't escape the top 12 because I think he goes 11 to Washington if they don't trade for Russell Wilson, which there's rumors about that flying around right now. Matt Corral, I like the tools. I like the upside. There's processing issues that you got to deal with. The offensive scheme doesn't translate as well, but everything is there with Matt Corral, and if the injury checks out, he could be the first quarterback drafted, honestly.
I think that nobody's been hurt by the draft process more at the quarterback position than Matt Corral, just because of the injury that he had. Not being at the Senior Bowl kind of pushed him back down a little bit. Not being able to test at the combines kind of pushing him down a little bit. Tape's fine. From what I understand and from what I've heard, he's interviewing well, not great, which is the big thing that teams are looking for. So I don't know. I think that Washington, if they're desperate enough, they'll take him at 11. I think he goes in the first round. Where is just hard to pinpoint because that injury is just such a variable right now.
Yeah. Anthony Edwards jumping in here with the $10 super. Would love J.C. Jackson to pair with Pat Surtain, and sounds like he's going to hit free agency. Could pick him up just like we did Aqib from the Patriots back in 2014, I believe. We were talking about this earlier because it does sound like he's not going to get franchise tagged by the Patriots. He is going to be able to hit free agency. The problem is with the production that he has had over the last 3.5 or 4 seasons, however long it's been, he's a top 5 cornerback in the NFL, and being as young as he is, as good as he is, you're talking about resetting the cornerback market. Now, Eric, are you interested in paying a cornerback $18 million on this team right now? Because that's probably what's going to take to get him. Like, you're talking resetting the cornerback market.
No, I mean, Denver's just not in a position competitively to do that. And my bigger issue is that you're taking J.C. Jackson from a scheme that ran press coverage at one of the highest rates and going to a scheme where they ran off coverage and one of the highest rates and press man or press coverage at one of the lowest rates. Going in with what Evero's bringing in with what the Patriots do. So there's just that concern there. I mean, I love J.C. Jackson. I loved him when he was coming out. I was a huge fan of him. I wanted Denver to draft him. It's just at this point, it just doesn't really make a whole lot of sense. I mean, Denver's at this point, since they don't really have a competitive window open, that they're just better as not spending big on a corner, especially with Ronald Darby and Patrick Surtain, and just rolling that over till they get that, or saving what they can and rolling that over.
Well, and I mean, you're still potentially going out and getting Bryce Callahan to come back, and hopefully that's on a cheaper deal. You're still kind of looking at, you've invested a 3rd-round pick in Michael Ojemudia as well, and I know that the former defensive staff was still pretty high on him. There's some versatility. Maybe you can play some safety for you there as well. And you made a great point here as far as what Evero wants to run, playing the off coverage, the Nash quarter stuff. He's a Vic Fangio disciple. He's also a Wade Phillips disciple, though. So it's going to be interesting to see exactly what he's going to run. And I don't know if we've actually gotten true, legitimate comments from him on that yet. So it's kind of a wait and see on this one. But something that I liked about Pat Surtain when he was at Alabama coming into the draft was the fact that he's such a long and physical player. He plays press man coverage incredibly well. If you did want to run a press 2-man, we keep the split field safety look, keep Justin Simmons on a half, maybe Caden Stearns as well, and move everybody closer to the line of scrimmage, it makes sense to go and get J.C. Jackson. I just don't think the price tag is right, especially with the Broncos where they currently sit. And unless they get a quarterback that can come in and compete in the AFC West, you're probably looking better to develop the young guys that you have, maybe get Bryce Callahan back, continue with the scheme that you currently do have, and move in a different direction there.
There's been enough from Evero to gauge the scheme. It's going to be off man. It's going to be the standard Vic Fangio. Okay. Or off man, off zone. But
right.
He said enough. I mean, the Wade Phillips aspect of it is more with the blitz packages. The pass rush aspect of it.
Right. It was just something that kind of went through my head when I first saw that he was going to be released. I'm like, there's a way that you can work with this, because Darby's not terrible in press either. So there's a way you can make that work. But again, paying $18 to $20 million to a cornerback, because that's probably what's going to take to get J.C. Jackson. It's not a way to go with me. Malcolm Brown, our good friend up there in Homer, Alaska, saying hello from sunny Homer, Alaska. You're lucky. It's not sunny here. It's cloudy. We're going to get rain and snow in the next 24 hours. So enjoy that. I will say, though, the last 4 or 5 days have been 65 degrees. I grilled on Tuesday and Wednesday and then went to a barbecue on Thursday as well. So been eating pretty good down in the Sanderson neighborhood. Travis jumping back in here. I believe that Pete Carroll has opened up about Wilson and said Wilson will not be traded. This is where offseason speculation and going through and parsing through words gets a little bit tricky, because we don't intend to trade Russell Wilson is a lot different than saying we are not trading Russell Wilson. We don't have any intentions of trading him right now. Like there's no Scott. What you got?
He can play the quote for it.
Okay.
Just give him a second. I mean, While we wait for Scott to pull this up real quick, I mean, the thing with this, with what's being said and everything, is that you have to understand is that very rarely is a coach going to come out and say, yeah, we're willing to trade this guy. He's a franchise quarterback. We're willing to trade him. You're really not going to get that. And I think it's been made pretty clear that Seattle seems hesitant to trade for him.
Offers or inquiries from other teams on possibly trading Russell Wilson?
At this time of year, we're there's conversations about everybody. We're talking about everybody, and that's commonplace for us to have conversations with teams about all of the players, particularly marquee players, and that's not changed. It's been the same every year we've been here, so it's the same as it's been. We have no intention of making any move there, but the conversations, John has to feel those he always has, but nothing specific to that.
Yeah, and that just goes to with what Lance was saying is like, we're not intending to trade him. They're still well open to it. Just give them enough. And that's what it really comes down to. Just give them enough. And that's how it is with any quarterback. I mean, untouchable is a phrase that you'll hear us use, you'll hear other fans use, you'll hear other analysts use. But really in the NFL, there's not many untouchable players if you offer enough. It's just that aspect of teams just may not offer enough for it. And Wilson seems to be at that point.
I think a big thing with Russell Wilson is the fact that he's not necessarily made it openly clear, like he's never come out and said something in public or, tweeted something or anything like that he's unhappy in Seattle. I think that's pretty well common knowledge at this point. But also at the same time, if Seattle's waiting on him to make that move, to make him look like the asshole, and pardon my language there. Like they're making him look like the bad guy. And without him actually doing so, they have all the leverage here. You don't want to go anywhere according to us. You haven't said anything publicly. You haven't said anything that says you want to be gone from here. So we'll field all these offers, but we don't intend to trade you until you make it clear you don't want to be here anymore. That I think is the key.
And on that note is, I don't expect Seattle to trade Russell Wilson at this point, unless he flat out makes it very clear he wants out.
I don't.
That's the expectation at this point.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that at all, Eric. I think that he is going to play at least this season, but this season in Seattle. But there's going to be a divorce coming here soon if they don't get it turned around quickly. And they don't have any draft capital. Like they don't have a first or second round pick this year. I don't think they have a first round pick next year either. Like there's a long ways to go in building that roster back up. And does Russell Wilson? Yeah, he's only 33 years old, but does he want to go through a 2 or 3 year rebuild to get back into competitive advantage there? Does he want to go and compete for a Super Bowl on a team that potentially has, the cap space, they have the draft capital, and they have all of the pieces in place to come and build an elite offense, and they are just a quarterback away? Like that's why strategically, he hasn't actually said it himself, but strategically he had his agent leak 4 teams last year, 5 teams this year that these are the teams that I'd be willing to accept it, waive my no trade clause to go to. And Denver has been that team this year. That's why they're so widely connected together. So until Russell Wilson actually says something out loud, they're not going to do anything with him. They're going to just eat those offers and just let it ride.
On that note, there's actually new news on a certain quarterback front. Ian Rappaport, with all eyes on Packers quarterback Aaron Rodgers and his future, here's the latest. Sources say Rodgers is truly torn on where he wants to play in 2022. While many in the NFL expect him to return, there's lots of positivity in Green Bay. He is going back and forth on what he wants. So it's one of those things, and I said this before, I just did a mock draft on this that had Denver trading number 9 for it. It just got published earlier this week. And I had a couple of people saying it published not long after they're working on a short-term deal. And here's the thing is with Aaron Rodgers, with any quarterback, until they say that, until any player says it, that they want out or that they're staying, all doors are open. It's been, this whole process with Aaron Rodgers has been a lot of back and forth with what's going to happen with him. Until he says for sure he's back in Green Bay, there's still a possibility. I'm not saying it's going to happen. I think that he is back with Green Bay. That's where I think that's going to happen at this point. But Denver and other teams, there's still some belief that he may be looking to want out. So just something to keep an eye on.
Yeah, and exactly. It comes all the way back down to what you originally just said. What is Aaron Rodgers' decision? He's the one that is ultimately going to decide if he's playing in Green Bay or if he's playing somewhere else. Because even though there's no really true written down agreement, there was a handshake agreement apparently, or at least that's what it was reported. Then Brian Gutekunst decided to kind of squash that notion. I don't think I don't think that if Aaron Rodgers says I'm not playing in Green Bay, trade me, I think the only other leverage he has is say, okay, well, if you're not going to trade me at least to a team that I like, I'll just retire. I'm not playing for you anymore. And he has the ability to do so. He's got a Hall of Fame resume. He's won a Super Bowl. He's been back-to-back MVP, 4-time MVP. Like, there is still that. You trade me to a team that I like now, or I just retire. I'm not playing for you anymore. Like, there's still that card to be played here.
And maybe when things started going, like, so you remember that he was headed back to Green Bay, had to do with the cleanse he was doing. Anyways, Peter Middleton says, your favorite guards that you think the Broncos could look at, getting back to the combine aspect. And real quick, actually, Scott made a good point of Packers wouldn't mind if he retired, would have cleared the cap. Yeah, I mean, they're in a very bad cap situation. Keeping Aaron Rodgers and Adams isn't impossible, but it's rather difficult for them to do. But anyways, as for guards, I really like the interior offensive line class. There's a guy out of Wake Forest that I like quite a bit, early day 3, Zach Tom. I mean, you don't often see a guy play center and tackle. With where he measured, with watching his tape, I think that Zach Tom has the ability to play all 5 positions. That said, I think he's much better on the inside than he would be at tackle, and you'd only play him at a tackle in case of emergency only. But that kind of versatility is a big boost when you're constructing your roster, because you can maybe cut back on an offensive lineman because you have this guy that's capable of playing all 5 spots.
That's a great point, and something that I incredibly value when I do my evaluations on especially offensive linemen and defensive backs. Like interior defensive linemen, I do value that versatility. Can you 0-1-3-5? Can you single gap, 2 gap? Like what are your versatility skill sets that you have? Offensive lineman is one that I like. If you can play center guard or guard tackle, or if you can play all 5, like, those guys get a huge boost to me. Like, they really do, because there's
the NFL in general.
Yeah, exactly.
The ability to do more, the more you are valued.
Right. And look at the roster construction of NFL teams. You're keeping 8-9 guys on the offensive line on the 53-man roster, sometimes 10. Like, you are losing a lot of valuable assets. If you have a guy that can play multiple different positions, and you have a guy that goes down, you can insert this guy. So Kevin Tom, you can insert him at center, at guard, or at tackle. That's a guy that can fill 3 spots. If you got anybody that goes down, that's a guy you can insert. And if it matches with the scheme, has scheme versatility as well, it's huge, huge value. Cornerback and safety as well. Like, if you can play the boundary cornerback, slot, and then also drop back and play the safety, you have 3 position versatility and can play man and zone. That's a huge boost to your stock in NFL levels, and obviously in my particular draft scouting. I love those guys that can do and wear multiple different hats, because the more you can do, the more likely you are to fit onto a roster. Dave jumping in here. Dave Millage. I'm not sure. This is a new name to me. First time there he says it right there. Listening up north of the 49th parallel, up in Canada. There you go. Still think some teams who takes Nakobe Dean are going to get a great player. Cheers all in the MHH. Great discussion so far for everyone. And thank you, Dave, and welcome. Welcome to the Dove Valley Deep Divers podcast. Hopefully you stick around, because this is what we do. We do great draft content, so hopefully you enjoy everything we have to say here. Nakobe Dean, Eric. This is a guy that you and I were watching, Jordan Davis, I believe it was 2020 tape, talking about him being a potential first-round pick for this year, 2021. And I kept pounding. I was like, dude, that linebacker, Nakobe Dean, at 14, that kid is a special, special player. You and I sat down and hashed it out a while ago, just how special he was. This was a little over a year ago, actually. What do you think on Nakobe Dean? Where does he go? Does he fit for the Broncos?
I'm a huge fan of Nakobe Dean.
Yeah.
For Denver, I'm a little bit iffy on it. I mean, there's a lot of similarities there to Roquan Smith.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think he'll test as well athletically for it as Roquan Smith will. I still think he'll test pretty well. But where he goes in the draft and what teams will think of them will have a pretty big, the combine athletic testing will have a pretty sizable factor for it, because linebackers are one of those positions that you can actually get pretty good insight as to not necessarily how successful they'll be, but length of the career, how many games they'll play in through the combine, through with how they test. It's just, and it'll also help to determine like what role is he actually made for. From conversations I've had, that seems to be a big concern with him. What is he actually made to do in the NFL? I like him. I'm just not sure if pairing him with Baron Browning is the best path for him to succeed.
Well, so I mentioned it earlier, and there was rumors going around, and you had mentioned this specifically with Nakobe Dean being potentially underweight, less than 220 pounds, like 215. So at that size, scraping and attacking in the running game, when you don't have a Devante Wyatt, who's a first-round pick, you don't have a Travon Walker, who's a first-round pick, when you don't have a Jordan Davis, who's likely a first-round pick, early second round at the latest, that can eat up blockers in front of you where you can use that athleticism to get through the trash and go make plays in the running game. At the NFL level, when you don't have those guys in front of you to keep guys off of you, that's a big concern. He's also not athletic enough, I don't think, to hang as like a safety where you're going to use him like a Deion Buchanan or even like a Tyrann Mathieu, an athletic freak, but still that similar kind of role is what I'm getting at. That dime backer, linebacker, heavy nickel safety, something like that. I agree with you on that. He also doesn't have the pass rush productivity that you want to see from a guy that you're going to take at that high. I like Nakobe Dean. Don't get me wrong. It's just like Eric said, pairing him with Baron Browning, especially with the interior defensive line questions that the Broncos have outside of Draymond Jones, there's a lot to hate with that particular scheme fit. And Kenny Booker jumping in here. Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah, the safety from Notre Dame that was drafted in the second round from the Browns last season. That's a great comparison there. But JOK was an athletic freak. Nakobe Dean is not. Like that. If you're looking for that kind of a role, JOK was way more athletic than Nakobe Dean is.
Well, I think that Nakobe Dean also offers you a lot more. I mean, he's still going to be limited in role and aspect of it, but he still offers you more than one niche role that Owusu-Koramoah does.
Travis Weber jumping in here. Washington today offered several first-round picks for Russell Wilson, and Seattle declined. I want to see what that offer actually was, because if you're throwing out a baseline offer, it's not the maximum that you're going to go. That's for sure. Because if you throw out, we're going to throw 3 first-round picks, 2 second-round picks, 2 third-round picks, and a player, then if you're willing to do that, you better be willing to do more. Like Seattle's going to say, oh, that's your first offer? Okay, cool. We're going to ask for 3 firsts, 3 seconds, 3 thirds, and 2 players. Like if you're willing to go at least that high, then you're going to be willing to go more if you're really interested in this, in acquiring this player. If it's let me finish this real quick. If it's an offer of 2 firsts and 2 seconds for Russell Wilson, then yeah, they're probably going to turn that down because they're going to get a better offer than that. You don't throw out your maximum offer on the first. That's not how you negotiate things. So I'm interested to see what that first package actually was before I give a true breakdown of is that a bad deal for Seattle? Is it a bad deal for Washington? Let's wait to see what it actually is first.
I mean, and that's why Pete Carroll saying we don't intend to trade Watts or trade Wilson is kind of a big thing. There is. You don't want to intend to trade him because as soon as you announce your intent to trade him, the value will take a hit.
Yep.
Several firsts. How many is that? What else was part of it? Maybe all there was to it was just a couple firsts. Maybe a day 3 pick in there. Like it's hard to, really guess based off of just a vague comment of several. As I said, though, I still don't think that Seattle trades Wilson at this time. I think that it'll take Wilson to really come out and say that I want out. I don't want to be here anymore for it to happen. And I don't think that Russell Wilson will do that.
He's too much of the nice guy. He doesn't want to be the forefront and center of attention. Like the whole Aaron Rodgers versus Russell Wilson situation is 2 completely different deals, guys. Like Aaron Rodgers, I don't want to speak for the guy, but the fact that this has gone public as long as it has makes me feel like he wants the attention. Russell Wilson is not that guy. Like the attention on him, just even throwing out those teams or his agent throwing out those teams that he was willing to, accept a trade for was enough of the attention on him to take away from what his end game is which is continuing to, bolster what could potentially be a Hall of Fame resume. He's not that guy to go and seek out that kind of attention. So I don't think that that's actually going to happen, which leads me to believe that he's going to still be in Seattle this year.
And there's some talk going around about a punter. Matt Araiza out of San Diego State is his name, and he's also a kicker. And he actually had a pretty good efficiency with kicking as well. Record-setting punter, huge booming leg. Like, you want to talk about somebody at number 9 overall? Here we go. Like, special teams all the way.
Dude, if you draft a punter higher than Sebastian Janikowski, who's the all-time points leader in Oakland Raiders history, I think we're going to have some issues here. But yeah, let's do it. Number 1, trading to 1. We're taking Matt Araiza. Let's do it. I'm in for this conversation.
I actually like him. He's one of the few specialists that I'll actually spend time to watch. Yeah, I like him, and I would love him in Denver with that leg. And he's got good placement. He's one of those specialists that I could definitely see a team using a top 100 pick on.
Wow, that's intriguing.
Not saying I think it happens. I'm saying he has all the things that you look forward to possibly see it happen.
So I want to parse this out just a little bit, and this might be a little ridiculous of a take here, but seeing how bad the Broncos special teams have been over the last 5 seasons, 6 seasons maybe, having a weapon as a punter is never a bad thing. A guy that can boom the ball, coffin corner kick. That's why I like Sam Martin so much, because he's actually been pretty damn good for the Broncos. Let's be honest here. He's been very good at pinning teams inside the 20, inside the 10 as well. Has had multiple really good kicks when he actually has the opportunity to do so. It's not a Pat McAfee or even a Johnny Hecker. Like, that guy is insane in Los Angeles, or the Cody Bajorquez, the kid that was in Buffalo and I think was in Green Bay this last season. Like, when you have a weapon, a guy that can actually, coffin corner kick and pin teams deep all the time, if you have quality elite defensive play, that's a definite direction that you should be investing in. If bolster your special teams as much as you can. What was the last kicker punter drafted in the top 100? Was that Roberto Aguayo?
I believe so, yeah.
Because Chad Jensen 2.0, Rodrigo Blankenship didn't get drafted until later, right? He was outside the top 100. I can't remember. Anyways, like, investing in a punter with a top 100 pick, that's a little rich for me. But if he's that guy, like a Johnny Hecker, a guy that can do crazy, ridiculous things with the football and pin teams deep inside the 5-yard line all the time, why not? Do something to help the special teams unit for sure. Black Knight jumping in here. Last couple here, guys. So if you got any good ones, throw some super chats down for us really fast. We'll make sure we get all of your guys' questions answered. Jeremy says, what round do you think James Cook goes, Eric?
Right now, somewhere day 2. Probably round 3, but day 2.
I was actually about to say that, probably a 3rd round pick. I want to see him a little bit more. Pass pro is okay. Great pass catcher out of the backfield, explosive, decent long speed, not the best long speed. I want to see how he tests, honestly. I like James Cook a lot. Very good mesh with what they have in Devante Williams right now. Speaking of, we got to hit this rumor really fast. Apparently the Giants at one point during the combine have been willing to shop a couple of players. First off, James Bradbury, the cornerback, who's a really, really good player, arguably top 12 player at the cornerback position. And also running back Saquon Barkley, who apparently the Broncos have expressed a little bit of interest in. Eric, what do you think? Do you giving up a 4th round pick for Saquon Barkley, or at least that's what the reports are right now? 4th round pick Saquon Barkley to come and pair with Devante Williams for a year?
Well, the latest reports is that they're not that they haven't listened to offers, that they're just not going to move them.
Okay.
That's the latest reports there. And from the sounds of it, it sounds like teams are looking at day 3 picks and Giants want more. So
that's fair. And Scott, I think threw some stats out here. 5'11", 199 for James Cook. Yeah, 4.5-ish. And that lines up. Decent long speed, but not enough long speed to make him a really true home run threat. 33-inch vertical today. The tape's a little bit better than that. I think that his pass catching ability is the versatility that he does have there, particularly out of the backfield.
So
It would work.
Real quick, what was his 40 time was 4.5.
Yep.
Right. What else was there?
33-inch vertical was the only thing I saw.
33-inch vertical.
Yep.
So Dalvin Cook, 4.49, 30 and a half.
Mm-hmm.
I think Cook is a little bit more explosive.
Dalvin Cook also did that at weight. He wasn't 5'11", 199, was he?
He was 5'10", he was 5'10", 210, so he was a little bit heavier.
A little bit heavier. That's actually a pretty decent comparison, honestly. Not bad. 33 vert scares Scott more than the 4.5 40, and I don't disagree with that. It doesn't
33-inch vert scares me more than the 4.5 40. Yes.
Yep. Mm-hmm. It doesn't show the explosiveness.
Verticals and broad jumps have a good correlation between running back success.
Yes, they do.
More so than an overall 40.
Yeah. Lawrence Rivera jumping in here. Last one for us, guys. Much love, guys. I'll have to watch later. Son needed to eat. Starve him. The kids don't need to eat. They'll be fine. Okay. I've got 3 of them out there right now. They're all starving. I'm in here doing the. No, I'm playing. It's good to have you in at least a little bit late. Well, we're going to end the show here, but it's always good to have your support, Lauren. So we appreciate you for showing up, guys. With that, that's going to do it for us tonight, guys, on the Dove Valley Deep Divers podcast. Grab that one from Michael really fast, Scott. You just threw it up there. How did Rachaad White from Arizona State do at the NFL Combine? He hasn't actually tested yet. He won't test until later tonight.
He ran a 4.51, 40, 38-inch vertical, 125
okay.
broad. So the thing with the running backs is that they're doing their stuff right now while we're live. So we can't really watch it. So I can't tell you about drills. And if for testing stuff, I have to look up what they did. So Rachaad White had a pretty good day.
Okay. I had not seen that yet, obviously. Anyways, guys, with that, that's going to do it for us tonight on the Dove Valley Deep Divers podcast. You guys can follow us on Twitter by finding me at Sanderson MHH, for Eric at Erick Trickel, also for Scott Kennedy at Scout Kennedy. Also, guys, while you're at it, make sure you guys are following at Mile High Huddle, where you're going to get breaking news and analysis regarding all of your Denver Broncos, including film breakdowns, opinion articles. Our scouting reports are coming. Eric's got a lot of draft content over the next couple of months. Going to be doing my big full first round mock draft right about the week of the draft, probably the Tuesday of. I'll get that published for you guys. Fan consensus stuff is going to be great. Love doing this piece. Anyways, you're going to find it at Mile High Huddle there. Folks, if you guys are financially able to do so, head on over to huddleuppod.com. That's the merch booth, boys. That's the concert guy and me. The merch tent is huddleuppod.com. Get yourself a hoodie. You guys get yourself a hat. There's t-shirts, something for the guys, something for the gals. There's coffee cups, face masks. Doesn't matter. If you guys love the shows, huddleuppod.com. Get the merch. That's a great way to support the show. And if you guys aren't financially able to do so, times are tough. I understand. Definitely understand. If you guys aren't able to do that right now, we understand, but you guys should be subscribed everywhere to Mile High Huddle, no matter what platform, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, Facebook, whatever, every single one. Subscribe to Mile High Huddle. If you like every video, that helps out a bunch, but if you love it, share it. Share it in front of as many Broncos fans as humanly possible, because without your guys' support, we could not do what we do best, which is cover your Denver Broncos. Now, with that, Eric, we've got a couple of messages from Scott here. Face Twitch, he says. Yes, Scott says face Twitch. Snapchat, Instagram, whatever it is. Make sure you guys follow at Mile High Huddle, because it's a great way to get all of your Broncos content. Eric, any last words, man?
Yeah, I mean, go out there, enjoy life, be excited. Hopefully things continue on the path forward for the Broncos. I mean, next step, just got to find that quarterback. Hopefully before long it happens, because I don't know about you guys, but I don't want to go through many more years of what we've had to deal with.
Yeah, finding the quarterback's the big thing, and it doesn't sound promising from the reports and rumors that we're hearing from the combine. Yeah, it could be rough. Could be rough here for the 2022 season, but we're going to be here covering and breaking it all down for you guys on the Dove Valley Deep Divers podcast. Well,
as who was it? Kyle Shanahan said we could all be dead by tomorrow or by next Saturday, or whatever his comment was a year ago.
I'm gonna stay out of the conversation that I want to jump into really fast.
No.
With the current events going on in the world, but then we'll just leave it there.
One
Yeah.
was at least football related.
I'm speaking real world events here too that do matter. But anyways, with that, guys, you all stay safe, take care, have a great rest of your weekend, enjoy the rest of the scouting combine. If you have any questions at all, please at Sanderson MHH on Twitter, at Erick Trickel on Twitter as well. Come get all of your questions to us. We love to interact with you guys. We will be able to answer any and all of your questions that you have for us. So with that, guys, we will see you guys same time, same place next week. And as always, go Broncos.
You've been listening to the Huddle Up Podcast. Join Broncos Country's deep divers at milehighhuddle.com to keep the conversation going.